The Wolf Among Us is an interactive episodic adventure developed by Telltale Games. It's based on the Fables comic book series by Bill Willingham, and it serves as a canon prequel to that series. You play as Bigby Wolf, Sheriff of Fabletown. Your job is to investigate the murder of a fellow Fable, a storybook character seeking refuge in our world. I wasn't familiar with the original comic upon playing The Wolf Among Us, but the game does a good job of explaining things with little exposition. As you progress, you'll unlock information boxes that provide more context to various aspects of the world, characters and lore. If you're familiar with other Telltale adventure games, you'll know exactly how it plays. It's a very narrative heavy adventure, with a few small exploration segments and QTE heavy action scenes. It also promises that the story will change depending on your choices, but as is usually the case with Telltale titles, that's not entirely true. There are 5 episodes, each taking about an hour or so to complete. That's a little shorter than some other Telltale games, and particularly disappointing in this case. Because despite not knowing much about the original comic going into The Wolf Among Us, I really enjoyed what I played, and I came away with a strong connection to this world, its story and its wonderful cast of characters.
My car.
Yeah. Give me a second.
The central narrative is an engaging and enjoyable tale from start to finish, but it is also very short, and the ending doesn't leave you entirely satisfied. Considering the depth of the source material, The Wolf Among Us could have easily been at least twice the length, which would have really fleshed out the story, the world and the characters to a far more appropriate degree. The game focuses entirely on the core narrative, and as a result, many smaller and very promising story threads are simply dropped as you progress. Now this does give the narrative a great sense of pace, but it's very frustrating when so much of its world and characters are only teased, but barely explored. Like other Telltale titles, there's a lot of notifications that certain characters will remember your actions or words, but very few of these pay off by the end. Even when you think you've made a decision that will change the narrative, it doesn't really do much. Now that's always been a problem with Telltale and the illusion of choice, but it feels even more pronounced here. And that's because this game, as I've mentioned, is a canon prequel to a comic book series. As a result, everything has to end in such a way that ties neatly into how the comics begin. So no matter what you do or what choices you make, you don't really have any influence on the overall narrative. What you do have, however, is the ability to shape the character of Bigby, how he responds both verbally and physically to the various situations you'll find yourself in. Do you try to be the law-abiding sheriff that Snow White wants you to be? Or do you give in to the beast? That struggle is at the heart of the narrative, and thanks to some great VA for Bigby and the supporting cast, it's that struggle that keeps you engaged throughout. I'm not going to get into story specifics, because it's the narrative that makes this game a great experience, so it's best to discover it on your own. I just wish the experience was far more substantial and not so heavily restricted by its status as an official prequel to the comics. Despite my disappointment at its length and how it largely glosses over your choices due to those restrictions, I still really enjoyed The Wolf Among Us, and I'd certainly be interested in seeing more of this world and these characters.
I only saved her because I thought she might give me a reward. But she didn't give me shit. Except a bunch of people thinking I'm something I ain't. I played along as I could. Only thing I managed to get from it was a free drink every now and again. Not a good that did.
I'm dragging you back to the woodland.